Hey everyone, hope you're doing fantastic today. Today we're going to be going over how to do your key bindings or controller bindings, whatever, in Doom VFR for speedrunning. Let's get into it. Alright, so before we get started, I'm going to put a disclaimer here just because there's 3 commands that you may or may not want to use. One of them is pretty much necessary for one of the tricks, which is the 180 bind, which I discussed in my switch walking video. So the 180 bind is pretty much necessary. There's 2 other bindings that we're going to be putting into the console for free turning with like your joystick, which basically just allows you to move your head in game without actually physically moving your head. So you can just turn like this. Totally optional, but I'll show you how to do it anyways, just in case you want to. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna say is when you're doing the console in Doom VFR, it's really hard to show you, but I'm gonna show you with Doom 2016 because it's exactly the same process. So let's go ahead and do that. Alrighty, so let's assume that you're in game in Doom VFR. Keep in mind what you're looking at is Doom 2016. I'm only showing this for demonstration purposes. You're gonna be doing this in Doom VFR. So what you're gonna want to do is with your keyboard, you're going to want to press the tilde key, which is this little squiggly line underneath the escape key. Just find the little squiggly line and press that button. And you're going to get a console opening up. It's going to look like this almost exactly in Doom VFR. It's just really hard to capture it in VR. So I'm going to use this game instead. Alrighty, and so now that you have the console open, I'm going to get you to type in one or all 3 of these commands. Depending on what you want. Personally, I use all 3. I love all of them. They're great, but it's up to you. The 181, though, is pretty much necessary, so that's what the first one is here. So I'll just list them out here. Take the time to write them down. You can copy them and paste them right into the console. And so yeah, just do that before the next step. Alright, so while we're still in-game, I'm going to show you some settings in-game that you're really going to need. Because otherwise it's going to mess you up pretty hard. So pick a save slot. It doesn't matter which one because it applies to all of them. The settings are kind of weird in this game, but anyway. Go to a save slot, pick settings, controller. Make sure dash is turned off because it's fucking annoying. And make sure move on touchpad press is turned off, at least for the Rift S. I'm not sure exactly what this does for other controllers. But basically, for the Rift S controllers, it makes it so that you have to press in the button and then move the stick. If you have this disabled, it makes it so that you can just move the stick without having to press it in. Much better. Alrighty, so presumably by now, you have put in the command or commands of your choice into the console. If there's any errors or anything, you can message me on Discord, but there shouldn't be. Alright, so now that you've put in the commands, it's going to bind the actions to something on your controller. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to bind to because it's different for every controller. But for instance, on my Rift S controllers here, I have these backwards. The commands that I've written and given to you will bind 180 to the left controller on X. So that's the 180 bind. And it's going to be binding the snap turn, or the smooth turn rather, to the right joystick on left and right. So if you have the Rift S controllers, it should be doing the same. If not, if you have the index controllers or the 5 controllers, pop in game, test around with the buttons, see what it does, because you're going to want to take note of what button those actions are bound to for this next step. So assuming you know which button they're bound to, now you're going to come into this little Steam VR window here. You can do this without your VR headset entirely, by the way. So we're going to hit this little hamburger icon. We're going to hit settings. Move this out of the way. So you can do this in VR if you want, but I find it's just easier without it. We're going to go to show old binding UI. Alright. Show more applications and Doom VFR. Okay, so here's the nice thing. So assuming that you have a Rift S, I have already made bindings for the Rift S. So if you have a Rift S, you can go right here, or it should be somewhere in these community bindings here, and you can activate mine. You can literally just activate my binds, and you can use those. Or for instance, Tenka here is another Doom VFR speedrunner. You could try those out, or any one of these. So smooth turning on right, like there's a bunch of shared bindings. Feel free to try them out. Or if you want to make your own, you can totally do that too. So basically the way that this binding system works is it's taking what is the in-game controls, and then it's basically overriding that. So you'll see, for instance, for this grip here, so this is the left grip, which is this button on my Rift S controller. It's showing that I have it bound to left trackpad, which is pressing in this button, which is the teleport. So I have this button bound as teleport. I don't actually use that all that much because I have like 3 different bindings for teleport just in case I want to use those. But that's an instance of what you can bind. So all you need to do if you want to rebind something is figure out what the action, or rather the button is in game, and then what button you want it to be. So for instance, let's say I wanted teleport to be on this joystick instead. So the actual in-game teleport is click in the left stick, but let's say I wanted to click in on the right stick instead for whatever reason. So you just go to the right joystick, edit, click, and you're going to click in left trackpad thumbstick press. And that's simple as that. All right, so let's show another example here. So down here, so the 180 bind is by default on my controller bound to X, which is also known as the secondary A button. The reason it's known as the secondary A button is because on the right controller, the bottom button is A. So secondary A is the bottom button on the left controller, which is actually X. A little bit confusing, you get used to it. But so what I've done here is I've taken the Y button and I've bound it to the left A button, which is actually the X. So what that does is it's putting the 180 bind on a controller, or on a button that's more comfortable for me. And honestly, that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna exit out of that because I want to keep my bindings as they are. But yeah, if you have the Rift S, feel free to just download my binds, or you can edit your own or whatever. We have a bunch of binds available. I believe myself, Tenga, and Samabam have all released binds. Alright, yeah, so I understand this whole thing can be a little bit confusing at first. Honestly, it took me a bit to understand it. It's kind of a weird process. But if you do have any questions, if you want to run and you do have any questions, please feel free to drop by the Discord, drop a comment under this video, just send me a message however you can, whatever, and I'll be more than glad to help you out. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoy speedrunning. Have a good one.